Good afternoon. My name is Susan Doyle and I will be your facilitator today on behalf of Lean Construction Ireland. I would like to welcome you to Lean Construction Ireland's 42nd webinar, the topic of which is Did COVID Kill Lean? Relaunching your Lean initiative in 2021. If you have a question, please type it in the question box and we will ask Dan in the second half of the webinar. If there are any questions that we don't get answered during the webinar, we will follow up by email afterwards. The speaker for today is Dan Fauchier from the ReAlignment Group of California and Construction Accelerator. Dan is a certified master facilitator for lean design and construction with 42 years experience. He learned Last Planner from Greg Howell and Glenn Ballard, and with David Umstadt co-authored Lean Project Delivery Building Championship Project Teams. For Construction Accelerator, Dan produces, co-writes, and co-presents 3 to 9 minute lean training videos used by AGC, Bosch, and many lean companies. I will now pass you over to Dan to start his presentation.
Thank you, Susan. It's great to be here. Thank you it's morning in America. It is afternoon in Ireland, and I'm honored. So our topic today is Did COVID Kill Lean? We had planned to have a co-presenter, but he had a family emergency, so I'm flying solo today. Let's set the stage, shall we? Why do we even do this lean thing? Why are we studying this? Why do we continue to work with this? Well, for one thing, per recent surveys, 70% of projects are delivered late, and 70% are also over their tender price. That's not good. Those are not good outcomes, and owners are very unhappy about that. In addition to this, one of the things we've noticed, again by survey, that in manufacturing, the labor only experiences about 12% waste because manufacturing has been lean for 30 or 40 years. In design and construction, labor waste is 57%, which is horrendous. That means for every 10 people that you're paying on a construction site or in a designer's office, you're getting the work of 4. 4 out of 10 are being productive on average, and that's not good. In addition to that, globally, labor productivity for construction is that bottom line down there, that orange or yellow line. Construction productivity has been nearly flat for over 50 years. And this particular chart for global averages is just since 1995, and it's only gone up slightly since 1995, even with all of the different software and tools and robotics and all the things we're doing. Still, it is not a productive industry. Why else do we do this? Well, quite honestly, our families. We do this for the folks at home, the people we love, because lean makes a safer project. It makes a more enjoyable project. It allows us to go home on time and not have to work weekends because we get our work done without all that extra waste. But we've had issues in the last year. COVID brought physical distancing. We have to stay 6 feet apart on site. Most of us are still working from home. We have to use masks and PPE that makes us less productive. There was an initial disruption last March and April that was horrendous, and it continues with productivity impacts. You see in the upper photograph the way it used to be, with all of us huddled together once a day for a daily huddle around the pull planning and the weekly work planning boards. Now in the lower photograph, we're all spaced apart. We're still able to have our daily huddles, but it's more challenging, and it does impact productivity. A lot of companies have experienced staff reductions, and that impacts the culture of lean because our culture is based on respect for people. We've tried to maintain that culture, even working from home, but that can be challenging. How do you keep teamwork? How do you have water cooler conversations, those casual collision spaces at a workplace that we don't have when we're on GoToMeeting or Zoom or Teams? How do we still maintain that lean culture working from home? Actually, we've done some short 20-minute webinars on that very topic that are on our website. But The other impact has been a supply chain disruption all over the world. I remember back in last March and April, all of my contractor friends were literally scrambling. I would call them and say, well, you know, we're ready for that training that we talked about. We can do it online. They say, oh my goodness, we are scrambling to repair our supply chains because everything from China has been cut off and everything from that country's cut off and that country, and everything is broken down. So it has really interrupted it and made us all feel like we're kind of on an island. You are literally on an island, but individually, alone on an island, with just lots of questions and a couple of palm trees. And the interesting thing to me is that one of the things that COVID has reinforced is that central tenet of lean, of respect for people. I mean, the mere fact of wearing a mask and of 6-foot distancing and of all the different measures that we're taking show a respect for people. And that has survived all of this crisis. I was recently talking with a company that had been on a 7-year lean journey. They're a vertically integrated builder. They build buildings, sometimes very tall buildings. And I said, how has lean impacted, how's COVID rather impacted lean on your projects? And they've said, we've had a lot of them canceled. The owners have just canceled the projects. The ones that hadn't started aren't starting, and some of the ones that had started, they got shut down. We had one owner say, we'll keep you working, but go as slow as you can because we need to reduce cash flow. For this company, all training was canceled. They described what they called a lean mindset regression. There a great deal of uncertainty. Just in time, no way. They needed to increase stockpiles to plan for supply chain disruptions. They needed to increase buffers, not decrease them. They needed to increase waste, not because they wanted to, but because that's the natural consequence of not doing lean things. So you and I both know that if we're going to continue lean, if we're not going to let lean be killed by COVID, we need continuous improvement. But continuous improvement requires a stable state. You can't continuously improve chaos. You have to stabilize the state and then begin to improve. And COVID trashed our stable state. So some of our traditional challenges remain. A lot of people still say training is expensive. Now, you and I both know it's an investment. You probably wouldn't be on this webinar if you thought training was expensive and they didn't understand that it's an investment of time and money to train people. But still people think that. People still think that they're too busy to be trained or to do training for others. And that attitude still prevails. And there's still a reluctance in many cases to commit. The willingness to commit is not always there. Why does this matter? Why is this a good idea? So let's talk about that in terms of the kinds of things we're experiencing. One thing is, since we're now working virtually more and more, we're all experiencing stress fatigue and some adrenal fatigue that we didn't expect, perhaps. My friend Rex Miller, you may know, a great author and a good team builder, says he did a study and he figured out that for every hour you're on a virtual call like this, it's like 2 hours of regular work. 1 hour of virtual, 2 hours of regular work. So if you're on Zoom 6 hours a day, you've had a 12-hour day. And so how can we turn this around? What does the future look like? Let's pull out that crystal ball and let's gaze into it. Do you think after COVID, we're going to snap back to reality? I don't think so. I think these changes are going to last well into the future. So how is 2021 and 22, what are they going to look like? We're probably going to have fewer resources for lean, at least for training and other kinds of things compared to the way we were in 2019. Not all of us, but many of us. We're going to be more demands on our time. COVID has accelerated the future, and the future means more demands on our time. Another area is that staff are now used to just kind of making do, to just getting it done. one way or the other. And that attitude, which is not lean, is going to carry over going forward. That's the regression of lean practice and culture that some of our folks are experiencing, and maybe you are as well. And it's not possible to go backwards pre-COVID. We can never go backwards. So we have to look forward and figure it out. Besides, backwards wasn't all that great anyway. Let's think about it. You're working with Lean Construction Ireland. The lean construction movement is nearly 30 years old now. Lean in manufacturing is 50 or 60 years old, but in construction about 30. Why isn't the entire industry embracing it? We know lean is better. Why aren't all the people around us bought in to daily improvement the way you and I are? So going backwards may not be all that great anyway. Let's do this. Instead of going back, let's relaunch forward. Never let a good crisis go to waste, Winston Churchill said. So how do we go forward? Well, there are elements for a successful lean implementation: vision, skill, incentive, resources, and action plans. And we need all 5 of those in order to get real change, in order to get the results that we want. The thing is, if you're missing vision, you end up with confusion. You got the skill, you got the incentive, you got the resources, you got the action plan. But if you're missing vision, the staff get confused. So say you got the vision, but you're missing the skills. Now what you've got is anxiety, because people have the vision, incentive, and resources, and they've got a plan, but they don't have the skills to put it into effect. If you're missing the incentives, you only get gradual change. People need to be incentivized to make rapid lean change. If you're missing the resources, you get frustration. You got everything else, but you don't have the resources to do it, you get frustration. And if you've got everything else but a plan, you get a false start. You are planning to fail because you failed to plan. So let's look at what some of the lean leaders are saying. I've spent the last several months talking to as many lean leaders as I could get my hands on, and that's about 50. I've had a good success talking to people all over literally the world about how COVID has impacted them, what happened in 2020, and where they're going in 2021. Andrea Sponsel of a company called BSA Life Structures said, we've had to do more with less, and lean can help, because lean is all about doing more with less. Another one, Jennifer Lacey at Robinson Morton, said 2020 was the best year I could have had because it stopped us and it allowed me to restructure our lean initiative. We rethought what we were doing, and I had the breathing room, the time and the space to restructure our lean initiative. We asked some folks, what are some good 2021 lean goals for your organization? And some said, we want to be better at virtual. We want to clearly define the team structure and our project processes. Several said we want to use consistent terminology. We want consistent practices, consistent measures. We want to inspire improvement. And look at all these are, each tag there is a different person describing what some of their good 2021 lean goals are going to be. Trevor Coyle at Kinetic Construction in Canada said, we worked for 2 years on building a continuous improvement culture, and now we're using study action teams with lean books and lean videos, and we're teaching the tools. In other words, they prepared the ground of continuous improvement culture for 2 years, and then they started teaching the tools. And they're using Construction Accelerator videos and some of the books we'll talk about in a minute. We mentioned incentive as a key part of that. One of the workshops we did with some folks about what they're going to do in 2021, we said, what are your incentives? What are the incentives you have now, and what do you want to use to incentivize people? And you and I both know there are extrinsic motivators, things like bonuses and awards, recognition, and there are intrinsic motivators, and that's the things that go on inside us, the things that are self-rewarding, the desire for self-improvement, knowing that there's less stress, because we've done it right the first time. More predictable project outcomes. And so they made a list of all of these, extrinsic and intrinsic motivators, and they tended to shift toward the intrinsic because that's something we can internally control, and if frankly studies have shown is more rewarding. Other lean leaders have said this. This is Deborah Brousseau of Atlantic Constructors. She said, COVID let executives look closely at lean and see what's working and what's not working and fix it. So one of them came up with an action plan. We're going to streamline our daily processes to save time that can be used to focus on becoming more lean. We're going to remove the clutter, 5S, and cleaning things up so that there's less distractions. This particular company had what they called a skill builder program. It's a monthly meeting of all of the people in their area, about 80, 90 people online on Zoom. And they said, we're going to use lean as the learning topic in our skill builder program. We're going to use virtual tools to organize and optimize our shared resources. One of their other action plans was to form a small knowledge community focused on advancing our lean journey, lean champions, if you will. And their fifth goal was to understand and access what resources are available. They want to develop a lean blog, and there are a couple of great lean blogs online as well, IPD blog and so others. A construction accelerator resources they particularly mentioned as things they want to use. Now, I talked to Bob Grimes at Turner Construction. You may have heard of Turner, international company, part of Hochtief out of Germany. Bob Grimes said COVID pushed lean to the forefront in 2020. And now we include an executive in every training session. And here's what they did. It was really fascinating. He said, all our executives are 100% on board, to the man, to the woman, everybody's on board. And every time we're going to have a training session, whether it's virtual or in person, but most of them are virtual now, we have an executive in that session. And before the session, the executive knows who's going to be there, and he or she will send an email to all of those people saying, I'm going to be in the training session with you. And then they will sit in the training session with them. And after the training session, the executive will send out an email. Here's the thing, here was my big takeaway, what's yours? And continue that engagement. I think that's a brilliant strategy. I've got another lean leader, a guy named Bob Salai at Lighthouse Electric. They're an electrical trade contractor. And he said, COVID skyrocketed our lean initiative to digitize our processes. We're already mapping our processes and standardizing our work, and COVID made digitizing these processes urgent and necessary. And they actually developed an online system with several applications to digitize literally everything, including their fabrication shop. Here's action plan that a second of our folks put together for their 2021 plan. More deliberate engagement of middle managers in developing coaching skills, and that person was going to take it on themselves, pilot it in February and expand it in May. Their second plan was to revisit and update their lean transformation roadmap. He assigned that to Lex with functional leaders this month. And a third goal, or action plan rather, was to design peer learning forums for new local lean champions. They wanted to do book clubs, the study action teams, YouTube clubs, and he assigned it to Mike and Taryn to start that in March. I talked to Ron Migliori, who's a structural engineer with a company called Bueller. He said, we've started Lean Champions Group. We're meeting bi-weekly in study action teams. That's what that SAT means. And we see this as a way to spread the message faster, which I think is really smart, because if you have a study action team of champions and they're exchanging ideas, then each of those champions goes out to their own team and inculcates that message in others. Now, I picked out a third action plan from some of the folks we work with. Their plan was more concise. First of all, recognition of lean and recognition of people who are using it, creating a small team of lean champions. That seemed to come up over and over. Investing in people and training, getting support from leadership, and lean as an investment, seeing it as an investment, not a cost, which is accurate. Now, if I were reorganizing these by priority, I would put number 4 at the top. I would say start with leadership, then move on to these other items. So here are some patterns as we've looked across all these 50 or so companies and people who have assessed where they were in 2020 and where they're going in 2021. Here's some patterns that we see. First, get the executive buy-in, active buy-in and participation, not just benign blessing or disinterested neglect. Executives have got to be at the front of the room, have got to be at the front of the movement, even though they may not be the ones actively training folks, their visibility is essential. Another pattern that works is appoint at least one lean leader reporting to a top executive. For some companies, that's their lean trainer or their continuous improvement manager, or a person who is either full-time or part-time, whose focus is that for the company, and they report to the top executive. For other folks, they have multiple people like this, and some may be full-time. I know a lot of companies that do this full-time, but if you can't afford that, at least part-time folks who are able to talk to each other a great deal and exchange ideas. Here's another pattern that works. Assess the status of your lean implementation as it stands right now, and be brutally honest with ourselves. Really, where are we? What's working? What's not working? Where have we stumbled this past year? Where have we excelled? And where are we going from here? Identify the company targets for 1 year and 5 years. 1 year because we plan in annual increments. 5 years because you need a vision. You need an endpoint down there. You notice we didn't mention years 2, 3, and 4. We have no idea what's going to happen. If COVID taught us anything, it's that the world can literally turn on a dime. And so it's kind of pointless to plan what we're going to do in 2023 when we're still working on 2021. But you do need a 5-year plan, 5-year goal at least, a milestone of where you want to be in those 5 years, so you can kind of pull plan backwards year by year. Now, as you assess the resources that are available to you, know that some of those are internal. They may be the people that are trained like you. They may be your lean champions. They may be trainers in other areas, safety trainers or trainers for this thing or that thing. Those folks can all become part of the lean plan. And all of your internal resources can be turned to value in continuous improvement. But there are also external resources. You have this organization, LCI Ireland. You have webinars like this. You have the annual book of cases. The one for 2020 is out, and the prior years are in there. We have workshops. We have LCI and Construction Accelerator videos. There's the address for the company that Susan mentioned that I work with. The Construction Accelerator, short 3 to 9 minute videos, no long lectures, short 3 to 9 minute videos that fit the mood of the times. And a lot of books are available. Susan mentioned the one that David Umstattd, and I think most of you know Dave Umstattd. He's been in your community from time to time. Dave and I wrote a book called Lean Project Delivery. There's a great one out called The Lean Builder by Don Rumo and Kian Zandi rather. And that middle book, that Lean Builder book, is written from the superintendent's perspective. So it's written for the field, but it's understandable by everyone. But if you get that and hand off to your field folks and do a study action team, maybe among your superintendents, since you can use Zoom or Teams, a bunch of superintendents can get together virtually for 30 minutes once a week, reading a chapter at a time and talking about how they can apply it to their projects. And then there are some tremendous books like Transforming Design and Construction. Assess the resources that are available to you can include other companies that you can partner with up and down your supply chain. If you're a general contractor, partner with your owners and partner with your trades and the designers and the engineers. Some of them will already be on their lean journey, and you want to coordinate how you can message that to all the folks on your projects. Check with your suppliers and manufacturers. Manufacturers, almost all of them are using lean manufacturing, and there's a lot that we can learn from them. Your colleagues and competitors who are on the lean journey like you, a great place to share that is LCI. And we can learn from each other. I've tried to share with you what a lot of colleagues and competitors have experienced in 2020 and are planning in 2021. And make available lean coaches, professional coaches who can come in and train your internal lean coaches. And they can have bright and smiling faces like that guy wearing a green shirt in honor of Ireland. Now, I mentioned study action teams. I want to spend a little bit of time on that just to describe it. Whether you're new to this or whether you've been at it a while, you can really accelerate using study action teams. It's a group of people who get together typically once a week, but it could be every 2 weeks. But on a regular basis, at a set time, they read the chapter of a book, or they watch a couple of short 3 to 9 minute videos, and then they come together and they talk about what they learned, what they didn't understand. They share that knowledge with each other. But then the important word in study action team is action. So after they've shared what their understanding of that chapter or video is, then they say, how can we put this into action today and tomorrow? How can we actually do this? And so that's where the study action learning really takes place. Now you're tightly coupling learning with action, which is Greg Howell used to say is the way to do it if you're going to learn lean. Here's where you can get that book that Dave and I wrote. Many of you have it, I believe, because Dave has been making the rounds from time to time. Here's where you can get that Lean Builder book that I mentioned. Just if you go to leanbuilder.com, you can look up where it is on that website. And those are the two guys that wrote it, real field-oriented fellows. So, questions and answers, my friends. How can we be better to each other? Susan?
Hi, Dan. That's great. Thanks, Lynn. That was a great presentation, very interesting and detailed. We do have several questions in, so we'll kick straight into them. First question in from Paul. Is lean always better? Are there sometimes unacceptable risks, example to contingency planning when lean or just-in-time measures don't go to plan?
Sure. Greg Howell used to say, flow where you can, pull where you can't, push when you must. So in other words, flow is everything we want to achieve is flow, because everything is working smoothly. Materials are flowing, ideas are flowing, information is flowing, labor is flowing, the project is flowing. Where you can't just flow, pull planning, pulling materials, pulling people, pulling ideas. And then when you have to, when the crunch is on, push. Push is the least lean thing you can do, but push when you must. So sure, there are times. Last year about this time, or in March and April, there was no way for just-in-time delivery because their supply chains were all messed up. So it wasn't possible to do JIT. So we had to reestablish supply chains and pull and push wherever we could to make that happen.
Okay, brilliant. We've had some really positive comments in relation to your presentation. Everyone is very excited. A question in then from Richard. The executives of those organizations you refer to who have put lean action plans in place seem to have embraced lean as part of their business process. How long did it take these organizations to embed lean into their business model?
The short answer is years. I mentioned one company that had been at it for 7 years. The Bolt Construction is a U.S. company in Wisconsin that and around the U.S. that is probably been at it the longest. We've been doing it since 2003. They have pretty thoroughly gotten lean into their organization. Turner's been at it a long time. I mentioned Bob Grimes. Turner's been at it since at least 2006 or 7, I think. And they're really getting traction now. The thing is, you're getting benefits along the way. No one is ever fully lean. There's no end of the journey because it's continuous improvement. However good we can get a little bit better. But I think it's okay to recognize that if you're new to the journey, first the executives have to be on board. I've worked with a lot of folks for whom the executives kind of don't really, it's not really on their radar. They're not really concerned about that. They're not really aware of what lean can bring them. But here are some folks at the superintendent or project manager or construction manager level that are really keen on it, and they want to. And so they develop their team and themselves, and then demonstrate that to the exec. Say, look, we could do this everywhere. I'm going to keep doing it because it's making us money, right? But we could do this everywhere. So sometimes it can bubble up from the bottom, but for the most part, it takes years, and it can start really catching traction when the executives are on board.
Okay, excellent. Another question, just to let everyone know, if you have any questions for Dan, just type them into the question pane, and we'll work our way through them. What COVID impacts have you found in other design and construction companies?
Yeah, it's been pretty serious. One of the big things is the interruption of trust. You know, trust is built between human beings, and if we see each other face to face, there are facial expressions, body language, there's a chemistry that develops between us. For teams that have been established for quite a while, we had a number of teams we met with, monthly or quarterly. If we'd been with them for a while where they already had existing relationships, I call it an emotional or a trust bank account that they could draw on. The meeting on Zoom or Teams is less intense, it creates less of a connection. Although we've gotten pretty good. I actually am a certified virtual facilitator. There are skills you can develop to be really good at facilitating virtual teams. But if teams have been around for a while, they could draw down on that bank account. But teams that were newly forming, it has been much harder to do. The other thing in terms of, some people have just, one company in particular, they had to slash their costs. The executive said, cut costs, figure out how you're going to do it in your division. And this particular person I was talking to was in charge of the lean. She was their lean champion. She said, what we did is we cut out all travel, we cut out all training, and we put all of our money into keep the people. So respect for people is the first thing we talk about in lean. They made sure that everybody had a job. And then they just tried to do lean without additional training and without any travel or any additional budget. And it worked out for them because they still had that desire.
Okay, perfect. We have a question in from Martin. Will digital solutions or process automation accelerate lean construction in the coming years? And now that COVID has pushed us to adopt digital solutions.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. First of all, digital solutions are only as good as your processes in place. Digital solutions don't come with processes, at least not very good ones, not ones that apply to your project or your office or your company. But if you do good process mapping and value stream mapping, and then enter those processes into digital solutions, I mentioned Bob Salai at Lighthouse Electric. They developed a thing, you can look this up, Safe, Right, Fast, SAFE, do it safely, right, RIGHT, do it right, and fast, saferightfast.com. It's a whole suite of applications online for their company that they developed. And part of it's for the fabrication shop, part of it's for the folks out in the field, part of it's for the the folks in the offices, and there are all these suites of applications, but they had already process mapped all their processes, and then they put them into this software, and it's very adaptable. They used a very adaptable software. So the answer is yes, but the foundation of lean, process mapping, value stream mapping, and standard operations, standard procedures are key to that. And so this Safe Right Lean also has, they can, the person out in the field with on their phone or their iPad can push a button and up pops the procedure you use to install this thing, whatever it may be, the correct procedure. And there's even a button, another button on their process that allows them to feedback. I found a better way of doing this. Here's my improvement. So yes, it's these all go hand in hand.
Okay, interesting. Another question, sorry, just in from Martin there, just the second part. Can off-site manufacturing, modular construction help support, accelerate lean construction implementation?
I think so. I mean, that's what all the folks who are using it are telling me. We had a large company in the U.S. Go very lean and all modular, and they had some stumbles, but I think that was management as opposed to processes. But every other group I've talked about, I think Balfour Beatty works in your area. Every other group I've talked about who uses prefabrication, off-site construction, and modular construction tells us that it works great, and that that you have to get the tolerances right. But it becomes less expensive. You have more control over an off-site process than you do trying to assemble a million-piece puzzle on-site.
Okay, interesting question here from Gareth. As an Irish main contractor where senior management have just committed to implementing lean and setting out 1 and 4 year roadmaps, what would be 3 key issues or advice you would give to best ensure success?
Number 1, you've taken the first step. You got senior people leading it, and make sure they stay engaged. That's the first thing, is the engagement of senior leadership. The second thing is apparently you are a lean champion, and so it's the development of lean champions. In addition to every military operation needs a general and some officers up there, and they need the sergeant and lieutenant who are going to lead the troops, and so the lean champion becomes that person, and then the troops have to be trained. So the third thing is training. But we don't always have a whole lot of money, so you got to find the ways that I was suggesting to do the training. But executives, champions, and then training. I think those are the top 3. Okay,
brilliant. Another question: why do you say never waste a good crisis?
Well, I did. Actually, Winnie did, Winston Churchill, and many others since then, because a crisis focuses the mind. What's the old saying? Nothing focuses the mind like a hanging. A crisis focuses our mind. It makes us see what's essential. We only want to do what's essential. A crisis focuses on only doing what is essential to survive and to thrive. And so this COVID crisis has accelerated, for example, the use of virtual technology, and we need to make use of that and leverage that and learn it and use it better. It's accelerated. It's shown us the flaws in our supply chains, and we need to figure out how are we going to still do just in time and short buffers and all that and yet guarantee that we have reliable supply chains. So it's exposed all of these potential risks and weaknesses, and that's why we don't want to waste this crisis. Let it teach us what is essential and what we need to do to manage risk.
Okay, I have a question in from another attorney, Roland. I'm just trying to understand it. On a construction job, if you want to use lean, how do you break up the entire site or rooms?
Yeah, The best way I've seen is for the superintendent and the foreman, the people who are actually managing crews and the leader of those crews, if it's called a superintendent or maybe called a construction manager, whoever's leading the people who lead the crews, for those people to get together and figure out the best way on a plot of the plans, on a, a floor plan or the site plan, figure out the best chunks of work, the way they want to move around the building or around the site or down the pathway if it's horizontal construction. Let them figure out the answer to your question. As soon as one of us becomes the lone genius who figures out how everybody's going to work most smoothly, and that's our first mistake. I used to be that guy. And so all of us together have more wisdom than just one of us. So I would do it that way, and then color code those areas, and then do your pool planning and your last planner system, area by area in the way that you blocked it out.
Yeah, that's what Ronan, that was the second part of his question. He was saying pool planning for each work area. Yeah, okay. Another question in from Niall. Have you heard of any success stories from the implementation of just-in-time delivery during COVID-19?
No.
That's a simple answer.
COVID killed just in time, but it's coming back, baby. What we need to do is, I think what we learned is we can't rely on supply chains without exploring where the risks are. I think that's what it taught us, is that just in time relies on reliability. Maybe what we need for just in time is it's just in time on the site, but maybe we have a warehouse buffer nearby or just off site that is the buffer for, and we have a larger buffer of materials there. And so we can still do just in time on the site, but we have a bigger buffer off site until our supply chains are reestablished as reliable and the risk is removed or reduced.
Okay. We have more questions. They're coming in thick and fast, so we have a few more coming in. What role does the client have to play with adopting lean on projects?
I assume by that the client, you mean the owner of the project, and it can be and should be an essential role. We have a number of clients, of our own clients. We're lean coaches and trainers. We have a number of clients who themselves are owners. At LA International Airport was not always known as a lean owner, but they've become that. They then put those specifications into their contracts, and they expect their designers and their contractors to be lean, to use lean principles, target value delivery, last planner system, 5S, all the process mapping. A number of owners can take the lead, and lean construction as an organization has always felt that the key to lean adoption is for owners to specify it, because we always do whatever the owner says we got to do to get the job. However, there are plenty of owners who aren't yet aware of how much value lean brings to them. So I think if you are the contractor and you're going to be using lean principles, you want to invite the owner in to your meetings. You want to engage them in all of your discussions of design, in all of your last planner sessions. Have one of the owner's representatives there and make sure we have the owner input, because sure as heck, if they're not a part of the solution, they're going to be part of the problem.
Sure. Okay. Masood has just come in to say, great lean insight, Dan. Thank you. Can you elaborate on COVID impact on LSP implementation, and how can we overcome the social distancing constraint?
LSP. How are we defining LSP? I want to be clear. Oh,
that I'm not sure. I'll ask Masood if he can just come back to us in a second.
Go to the next question. We'll come back. Yep.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. Our organization doesn't have much of a training or lean budget. How do you recommend we can do it? We can do it still, promote lean.
Yeah, I'm a shameless self-promotion here, but that website at the bottom of that slide is a good place to start. For as little as $11 a person on a monthly basis, you can get access to all those 3 to 9 minute lean videos. I think these study action teams are really the key to low budget lean because you're able to use videos and books. You can actually download, there's a book called 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers. I don't know if you've heard of it, 2 Second Lean, Paul Akers. If you go to Google 2 Second Lean and come up with Paul Akers' site, it's a free PDF download. You can download his book for free, and then that can become the study action team book for your team. It costs you nothing but the time and energy of the people who are spending that 30 minutes or 60 minutes studying on a weekly or fortnightly basis.
Okay. Another question in here from Niall. You spoke about staff just making do and just get it done. Does this mean the right first time theory suffers significantly?
Yeah. Yes, it did. I mean, we went back to old school. Just get it done. Make as many mistakes as you have to. Go ahead and expose yourself to rework. Just get it done. We don't have enough time to flow from one trade to the next because this particular trade's materials didn't come on time. So let's remobilize and go over here and go over here and go over here. It messed up everything. Absolutely. So we need to recover because we don't want to live back in the old days. We want to live in the new days where everything flows and we can pull and we can get it right. Yeah, it really did. But right away, we got to tell people, all right, that was 2020. We got to reorient and let's go back to doing it the right way. Do it correctly the first time and then model that first run study for all of our subsequent work. Let's develop standard work and do it right.
Okay, sorry, Masood's just come back. He actually put in the wrong way around. It was in relation to the last planner system, not LSP, the last planner system. Yeah.
LPS instead of LSP.
Yes.
So I didn't want to infer that that's what you meant, Masood. So ask the question again, I'm sorry.
Okay, can you elaborate on COVID impact on last planner system implementation and how we can overcome the social distancing constraint?
Yeah, all the teams I know of have overcome the social distancing constraint. They do, for example, if they do pool planning in person, that means you slow it down. You have one person go to the wall at a time and put up stickies. It takes longer. You can overcome that by going online, and you can use, Bosch, Refine My Site, Touch Plan, vPlanner, Niali. There are a number of good online versions. Bosch Refine My Site happens to be very low cost right now for Last Planner. These are all great programs that you can use, and then the social distancing is a non-issue. And in fact, the people who are not on the project right now can be part of your weekly check-in and updating because they can join on their computer. But if you're doing daily huddles in person, same thing, 6 feet apart. I showed you a photograph of a group doing a daily huddle 6 feet apart. And you just keep that social distancing, and the superintendent asks, is this what you did yesterday? Are you still doing this today? Is there anything that's going to mess up where you're going from today and tomorrow? The 3 big questions for the daily huddle. But it's still doable.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's all the questions that you've answered.
Great.
Do you have any last comments to finish up on, or are you okay?
I'm honored to be a part of your day today, and thank you very much for great questions.
It was a pleasure, Dan. It really was. I'd like to thank Dan again for his presentation today. A copy of this webinar will be sent out to everyone who attended. We will send out information shortly via LinkedIn, Twitter, and newsletter for the next webinar that will take place on the 23rd of March. Thank you again from Dan and myself on behalf of Lean Construction Ireland. You can follow Lean Construction Ireland on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and through the website leanconstructionireland.ie. Dan, thanks again. It was a pleasure. Take care and have a good day.
All the best.